Hi guys, and welcome back to Tangy Tea of Life. I'm your host Veronica. I have two special guests with me tonight sipping on some tea. Guys, it is National Foster Care Month. May is National Foster Care Month, so I have these lovely people sitting at the table with me to talk about foster care. All right, special guest Mrs. Lurline Jerry is with me. She is the Associate Executive Director for the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program. Also, we have Christopher Whitaker. Did I get that right? Chris Whitaker with us, recruiter, family finder for the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program. So glad to have both of you with me tonight.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
So glad. All right. So you guys work in the foster care, and
Yes.
just give us a little bit of how you guys got started. Let's talk about that. What made you get into foster care?
Well, I've been doing foster care now probably about almost 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so I started with the Department of Social Services in Darlington County, worked there for 14 years, was a child abuse investigator. So after I left DSS and have always worked with foster children, I started working with the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program. So that's how I got into foster care, got into the foster care system back in the 70s. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So that means you really love it.
I do.
That's
I
good.
do.
And you, Chris?
Well, I've been in the foster care system for about 13 years now. As like Ms. Jerry, I started off at DSS, working in family independence, and I went to Human Service, doing foster care licensing, working with families, getting them licensed to bring in children who have been abused and neglect and need a temporary home until they possibly can transition back home.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's jump right into it.
Okay.
How does a child end up in foster care?
Children enter the system in a variety of ways. There's lots of things that may happen to a child that would end up with the child coming into foster care. The number one reason is children may be victims of child abuse or neglect. And it is deemed that the home they're in is unsafe and they need to come into foster care until you can work with the family and hopefully they may return. But that's one of the major ways that children end up in foster care is because of child abuse and neglect.
So let's say off the top of your head, like how many children are in foster homes in the state of South Carolina?
Right now?
The average children in foster care in South Carolina is around about 4,800 kids that are currently in foster care and foster homes.
And that's just in South Carolina.
800?
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yes, it is, and it grows every day. Like the number keep rising every day because we at the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program, we get between 40 and 50 referrals a day trying to place children in foster homes.
And the sad part, there's a shortage of homes. We have 4,800 children in foster care in South Carolina, but how many foster homes are licensed in South Carolina?
We don't even have 2,000. It's under almost 2,000, but not 2,000 foster homes across South Carolina.
So you do the math, there are more children in foster care than there are homes. So there's always this great need for people who want to open their hearts and their homes to children in need. So that's what we do at the Youth Advocate Program. We're always looking for people who can care, who have the heart and the desire and the means to help us with these children.
Now, are families allowed to take in more than one child?
Yes. Yes, when what Chris does, he goes out, he finds the families, and then they determine, the licensing department, which Chris works with them, will determine how many children can be housed in one house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And a family can have up to between 5 and 8 kids, and that's including their biological kids. And also depends on the adequate space that they have in their home.
Now, see, we're also a therapeutic foster care agency, so there's a difference between regular foster care and therapeutic. And you try not to have too many in a therapeutic home because we're considered professional parents. We're specialized in the care that we provide. So we're trying to give the child as much individualized and care as possible.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the homes, what kind of, I'm quite sure before you place the kids in the home, you got to do background checks and all of that good stuff. How does that work?
Right. Well, to begin the process, you'll start with myself. I get a call or maybe get an online inquiry from someone who may be saying they're interested in learning about becoming a foster parent, and I give them a call, and we'll just ask them some questions. First, we'll ask them why do they want to be a foster parent, and then we'll just talk about our organization, let them know that we are a therapeutic foster care agency where we're looking for foster parents to deal with children who have emotional behavior development delays and special needs to care for these kids. And then we just break down some of the minimum requirements. We tell them about some of the minimum requirements to be a foster parent. And like some of those minimum requirements are you must be at least 21 years of age, have a minimum high school diploma, GED or higher, have reliable transportation and auto insurance. You could be a male, female, any race or religion. You can be single, married, widowed, divorced, have a roommate, life partner. You can rent or own a home. It could be a mobile home or apartment. Just must be able to pass fire, safety, and health inspections and have homeowners and renters insurance. Also, we ask that you have adequate income to take care of your living expenses for a child transitioning to your home. Anyone that's in your home that's 18 or older must undergo and pass child abuse and criminal background checks. And also, you must complete our application, some financial forms, background checks, and things like that. And it takes about 3 months to become a licensed therapeutic foster parent if you are just actively involved in being at your home visits, coming to training, turning your paperwork and things like that.
Now, we do also provide a lot of training for our foster families, because when you're dealing with children who have been through a lot of stuff and have a lot of baggage, they need a lot of help.
Right.
And so that means we have to support our foster parents. So we are available, staff is available 24/7. We are always a phone call away, so we don't put a child in your home and then leave you alone to handle that child. You have an assigned treatment coordinator, we have a licensing coordinator, we even have our own mental health clinic in our Columbia office. So we got our own therapist, we got our own psychiatrist. We try to wrap that child as best as possible. With YAP, we have a program that's community-based services where we provide transportation, tutoring, counseling, behavior management, all kinds of services. We try to do our best to wrap the child and give the child as much as they possibly need. When a child comes into care with us, first thing that we do is do a diagnostic assessment where we sit down, a clinician sits with that child, talks with that child, compiles the child's family history and their social history and their psychological history to see what needs that child may have so that we can try our best to meet those needs.
Now, when you say, did you say they can go to a single parent home or a single person home? Like, do you all allow someone to foster a child that doesn't have any kids of their own?
Yes, you can have children or don't have any children in your home to be a foster parent. You can be single or married or have a life partner in your home or have a roommate. One thing is we just have to do background checks on everyone to make sure there's no criminal records or anything before we can proceed and place a child in that home.
See, that I didn't know. I thought you had to be married.
No,
Or,
that's a misconception. But I just need to make sure it's clear we do a very thorough background check, because we can't just place a child anywhere. We want to make sure that child is safe in the home that they're placed. So it takes a while, and we do state and national background checks to make sure that, if there is a problem, we find it before. We want to do our best not to hurt a child any more than they've already been hurt.
Right.
So we are very diligent in working with our applicants in becoming foster parents.
Yeah, because I know some people that they just get into it because they getting that little check on the side, Do y'all run into that a lot? Where you have to take a child from the home because they're not being treated like they should be treated?
We do our best to weed that out before we ever place a child. Because a person applies to become a foster parent,
Right.
does not give them the right, they're not entitled to become a foster
Right.
parent. We do some background checks and research to make sure that they are doing it for the right reason. A lot of people will say, yeah, I'm doing it because I have a good heart, but sometimes, as you say,
Right.
somebody might sneak in, but we usually can discern that.
Okay.
You can, with the questions and the training, we usually can find them out pretty quickly.
Oh, that's good.
And if there is a problem, if we ever were to find there were a problem, we would deal with that quickly. So no, we try to make sure we get the right people for the right child.
And as they go through the process, one of the forms they have to fill out is a financial form, and they have to give us proof of their bank statements or check stubs, and also on the financial form they have to fill out their gross, their net, what type of funds are going out for rent, utility, things like that, and see how much they have left over to make sure they have that adequate income to take care of their own living expenses for a child can transition. So we know that they won't just be trying to rely on the child's
Right.
income.
And it's not just that we have to have verification of their income.
Yeah.
You know, state requirements that we have to have check stubs. We have to have proof of whatever income you have coming into your home. While we want to accept your word, we have to have
Right.
written verification. So we have to have the documents in front of us before we can present a packet to the state of South Carolina to license a home.
Okay, so that being said, I'm taking it that you have to have a job to be a foster parent?
Not necessarily. You don't have to have, because we have some persons that work, or they may receive some type of veteran disability or another type of disability. So you don't have to work. You can work part-time, or you can receive some type of disability or some
They may be
other
retired.
income, or retired.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're already retired, you're getting retirement income, as long as you have income that we can verify.
Some sort of income.
Some sort of income, and that we deduct your living expenses, that you have money to live, that you have a surplus left over. So you can't zero out and have nothing left over to be a foster parent. You have to be able to support yourself before you become a foster parent, because putting an extra child in your home could present a hardship if you don't have
Right.
enough money. So we don't want to put an extra burden on your home if you don't have the money to support yourself first.
Right. So the check that they receive, because I don't know how it go. I don't know if they get a check once a month, twice a month, or what. But that check that they receive for foster care, that's not a check to take care of the kid?
Yes, it is. Yes, it's,
Okay.
here at the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program, we pay our foster parents a stipend twice a month. It's for food, shelter, and things like that to help with the child's need, buying clothes if they need something for school and things like that.
Okay. That's good information. See, I didn't know that. All right, so how long, usually, roughly, how long does a child stay in foster care?
Children come into foster care maybe for a day or maybe for a lifetime, but the average stay for a child is about a year and a half that they stay in foster care. Just the parents going through some treatment and things like that to make sure that just the reason for the child coming into foster care, the parents have to do treatment goals and treatment plans just to get back on the right track to get their children back.
Okay. So say if a parent, say if they was in a single parent home and that parent ended up going to jail for one reason or another, and they go in foster care, do they have to stay in foster care until that parent is released out of jail? And once that parent is released out of jail, that parent still have to get treatment and all that stuff before they can get the child back?
Well,
So you're saying like a child came to foster care because the single parent went into jail, so the child came to foster care?
Yeah.
So when a child comes into foster care for a parent going to jail, what happened is the Department of Social Services will look for a alternative relative, the father or the mother, or a relative to place the child with them. If they can't find the mother, the father, or a relative that's willing to take the child, then the child will stay in foster care. And as the child's in foster care, the caseworker will make monthly contact with the parents in the jail to help them do their treatment plan while they're in jail.
Oh,
So
okay.
when it's time for their release, most of their treatment plans will be over. Maybe they can get their child back once they get out of incarceration.
Oh.
the DSS works very closely with family members. They know that the best place for a child is with a family member.
Yeah, with the
So they
family.
try their best to find a
Family member.
family member who can take the child first.
Yeah.
And if that fails, then they rely on the foster care system. And the whole while doing the process, they're still looking for family for that child.
Some good information.
Yeah,
So how old do you have to be before you become a foster parent?
The minimum age is you have to be at least 21 years of age to become
21?
a foster parent.
Okay.
And we are looking for, we know that 21 is kind of a young age, people maybe still in college or just starting their own career and job, things like that. But we are looking for more younger foster parents between like the age of 21 and 45 to become foster parents, just to deal more with our children with like educational reasons, things like that.
Okay. Do you all get a lot of requests for babies, like newborns, like?
Yes, yes, we do, yes.
Because in the movies you see, like, if it's someone in foster care and they're, say, like 10 or 11, they overlook those kids and they want the baby, like 1-year-olds. And
Right.
A lot of people request younger children, but in reality, we have more teenagers who really need placement.
yeah,
Because, they come into care and they're teenagers, and we sometimes find it hard to place teenagers because everybody's looking for the baby.
yeah,
But we have some specialized foster parents who really love the teenagers. And when we have those, we really hold on to them because their homes stay filled all the time because there's always a teenager needing a placement.
Right.
You would not believe, and it's not just during the working hours, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, that we get calls for children to be placed in foster homes. We get that phone rings at night. It rings on the weekend. It doesn't matter what holiday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, it's still ringing, and children still need homes.
wow. And you said 4,800 kids are in foster care. Now tell me the difference between foster homes and foster care. Like, they can be put in homes, facilities. Like, what's the difference? What if they can't be placed in a home, then that when they go to a facility? Like, am I making sense?
Yeah.
What I'm saying?
What's preferred always is a child should be in a family, in a foster home.
Home.
That's a foster family in their residence, taking care of a child, giving a child a normal family experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we do at SkyApp. We try to do the least restrictive environment for our children, so a normal home with a parent. Unfortunately, there are times when children cannot always be housed in a foster family's home.
Mm-hmm.
They may require some additional help because of something that's going on in their life, and that's when children are hospitalized at psychiatric hospitals, or they may end up in group homes or group home setting. But that's temporary in nature. Children cannot be raised forever in that situation. That's why they try to put a child in a foster home. And they really prefer younger children are placed not in as much group care, but family care.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And speaking of family, do you all come across a lot of families like fighting to see who's going to get that child? The grandmother want the child, the uncle want the child. Like, how do you decide who gets that child?
We don't decide.
Okay.
We're not the custodial agency. That belongs to the Department of Social Services. They would make that decision. They're the custodial agency in South Carolina. So the decision about where a child goes is totally up to the Department of Social Services.
Okay.
But they would try to, if it's a mother that's got her kids taken away, they will try to find the father. And if they find the father, they'll do background checks on the father, go check his home, make sure you have the adequate space, the income and stuff to take in the children. And if he don't, they'll just ask around, do you have other relatives, the grandmother, the grandfather, aunt or something, and they'll just do background checks and look into see if they are willing to take the child, and if they have a clear background, they have the means to take care of the children. If not, then the children will stay in foster care.
Let me take that back. The court system decides where the children will go.
Okay.
DSS will make a recommendation. After they've done their home studies, they'll make the recommendation, but it's actually decided in the court system,
Okay.
family court judge.
So that's the last resort of sending them outside of their family members. Like, you try to keep them in the family
Yeah.
with the family member first before they
Well,
go
and
into
there's a process before that. When you get an investigation, when you get a call, DSS tries their best to work with the family and do a treatment plan to try to keep the child in the home. Their first course of action is to try to work with the family to keep the child in the home. Taking them out of the home is the last resort.
Gotcha. All right, guys. Well, I had another question. I can't remember what I was going to ask because this is some really good information. Like I didn't know half of the stuff that y'all are saying. So, if someone out there wants to become a foster parent, what's the first step that they need to take?
If they're interested in being a therapeutic foster parent with the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program, the first step is to you can visit us online at www.scyap, or you can give us a call at 800-882-5513.
Okay.
And ask for Chris.
And ask for yours truly.
Ask for Chris.
And we are, as I say, we are the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program. We are statewide, so we cover the whole state of South Carolina. So
We have offices in Myrtle Beach, Columbia, Beaufort, Charleston, Greenville, and of course Florence, right on Gregg Avenue in Florence.
Okay. Now, this may be a silly question. I don't know. Now, say if a parent, say if a child is in another state, let's say a child is in Georgia,
Okay.
and they getting ready to go in foster care. They don't have the family that they were with in Georgia are the reason they're going to foster care. So the next of kin is in South Carolina. Are they able to move those kids from the state of Georgia to the state of South Carolina, or do they have to stay in that
No,
state?
it's possible. Georgia will contact the Department of Social Services in South Carolina, and they'll do an interstate compact, and they'll do a home study in South Carolina. Now, the child may have to remain in foster care in Georgia until the home study is completed in South Carolina and approved by the courts. And once that home study is approved and they say that the home is suitable in South Carolina, then that child can move here.
Okay. And another question, how does a child, because you hear stories about a child going from foster home to foster home to foster home, how does that happen? Is it the person that's taking care of that child not doing what they're supposed to do, or
There are a variety of reasons of why a child may move from home to home. By the time the child comes to the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program, and I'll call it SCIAP, that child has become therapeutic, and that child has already had the moves in place because the child would not be, although we do some regular foster care, but when a child is therapeutic in nature, by the time that child reaches therapeutic, they've already had some moves prior to coming to the Youth Advocate Program. Children may move for many reasons. It may be that their emotional needs are more than some families may be able to maintain, and they have to move. It may be other licensing issues. It may be a variety of issues why children move until you can get the right match. Now, it's always our goal to match the child with the right home as quickly as possible. Most times it works. We are pretty good about that. But then sometimes it may not. And you may have to move the child until we can find the right home. There are also issues sometimes with school districts, and children might not be able to be served in a certain school district, and they have to get a specialized care in a certain school district, and they may have to move that child to where they can be maintained. So there's a variety of reasons why children move.
Yeah.
But we're always doing our best to work to make sure we lessen those moves as much as possible, because we know with every move, it could be detrimental to a child.
right?
Yeah.
So do you see this a lot where a foster care parent actually end up adopting that child that they taken in?
Yes,
That's
very much.
wonderful.
So. It is a great thing. It's a great
we
thing.
have a lot of foster parents that wind up adopting kids that they're fostered for a very long time. Once the parents' rights are terminated and the child comes eligible for adoption, most times the foster parent will just go ahead and adopt the children. They have their forever home.
That's awesome.
And when you get the right combination of foster family and child, that's family.
Yeah.
Even though some children leave the system, they may age out, as we say, they're over 21 and they're no longer in foster care, many of our foster homes, they're still right there at that home because that's mom, that's dad,
Right.
that's sister, that's brother. They're not going anywhere.
So how long does that take though? Like, how soon are they eligible to become that adopted parent? Like, do they have to wait until?
That's all decided by the courts and DSS because for a child to be free for adoption, that
Yeah.
means that the parents' rights have to be terminated. And that's not something you do quickly. You do everything you can to work with that family to get their children back home.
Right.
But when it's not possible, then we have to take action. We don't, but the Department of Social Services takes action, and the courts will approve or disapprove of the decision. And if the parents' rights are terminated, that's when a child is free for adoption.
And sometimes the adoption process moves quickly, and sometimes it's a drawn-out process. It can take between like a year to 3 years to adopt a child. Just depends on what's going on with the courts and the parents, getting the parents' rights terminated and things like that.
Right.
And we know that if you have a small child and there's no evidence that the family will be able to save that family and get that child back home, it's better to go into the adoption process when you got a child 5, 6, 7 years old.
Right.
There's no reason to hold that until the child's 15 or 16.
Right.
So
Okay, say if someone's at the hospital, just had a baby, they don't want the baby, they already know they don't want the child. Okay, that's different from you all, right? That would
Yes.
be considered as putting the child up for adoption,
Yes.
right then. That's
Yes.
not going into a foster care home. Can they make that
Well,
decision though?
there are different ways. The child they may decide they don't want the child, then the adoption agency may come in, DSS adoption division will come into play. And if they have not decided on a home for that child immediately, that child still may go into the foster care system until adoption says, okay, this is the
Okay.
family that will adopt that child.
Gotcha. Guys, we are learning something tonight. I'm so glad you all came. All right, so give us your contact information again for that person out there that may want to become a foster parent.
Yes, if you're interested in getting more information or learning more about becoming a foster parent, you can reach us at www.scyap.com, or you can give us a call at 1-800-882-5513.
And also, hopefully this is going to be my final question.
It's okay. We're good. It's okay.
Once a child leaves foster care,
Okay.
do you all have like some kind of program for them to go in, like job placement, housing, or anything like that? Like, is that your job, or is that someone
A
else?
child, a young person, I call them young adults, they can stay in the foster care system up to age 21. But now that's based on when they turn 18, children can age out of the system. But if they choose to remain in care, they have to be working on a plan, and it's called an aftercare plan. So they need to be working on getting employment or secondary education. So once a child reaches that point, and before that point, actually, we start looking at what this child's plans are for aftercare, whether they're gonna be going to school, whether they want to live on their own. DSS has this independent living program that assists with that, but they have to agree to certain terms with the Department of Social Services, and they actually help them get apartments, get cars, help their education. They can fund their education. So there's no reason a child who wants to go to college can't go.
Right.
If they're in the system, they can go to college, and we try our best to make sure they do that. There are programs that do offer aftercare programs for kids, and what we do is we connect those children to any program that we deem, or we find out about any resources that we have. We make sure we push all those resources on that young person before they turn 18. So we're starting at 16, 17, looking at your future. What is your future goals? Just like when you're in school,
Right.
and that guidance counselor starts talking to you in the 9th grade
Right.
about what you want to do.
Yeah.
We start very early on talking to this child about what do you want to do, so you
Yeah.
can be prepared. We've got a lot of success stories of children graduating college, children in the military. They become managers, teachers, doing very well in their
Yeah.
lives. Still connected to the Youth Advocate Program in many ways.
That's wonderful.
And believe me, if they leave the system and they get into some trouble or they need something, they know how to contact us, and they do.
Yeah. So you all, after they turn 21, you just don't throw them out there.
No,
Y'all
you
stay
can't.
connected.
You can't. You can't
Yeah.
do that.
Especially after you didn't got connected to them,
Yes.
What about, have you all come across where some kids were in foster care and they're out of foster care now and they become foster parents?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've had that.
We have. I think we have a few in Florence right now who are. They've been in foster care with other agencies or when they were younger, but we recently had a training, I think a couple of months ago, and one of our foster parents was one of our co-trainers, and when she told her story of the abuse she experienced as a child, and that's why she wanted to become a foster parent.
Yeah.
So a lot of our foster parents know the story.
Yeah.
They've been there themselves. So
Now,
who better to serve than someone who's experienced this kind of trauma?
yeah. Now, speaking of stories, we hear stories of foster parents taking in kids and abusing them sexually, mentally. What do y'all do in a case like that? Like, do you all handle that, or DSS get in?
DSS has a division called the OHAN, Out of Home Abuse and Neglect Division, and they investigate any reports they get about children in foster care of abuse and neglect. And what we do is we provide them the contact information of our foster parents and assist as we can. But if a foster parent were to do such a thing, they're going to be investigated and they will be handled by the Department of Social Services.
Good. Okay. Because we have some weird people out there. And
Yeah.
they get the kids for the wrong reasons, And like you said, I know y'all do a thorough background check and all of that, but some do get in that crack, and are able to foster a child, but for the wrong reasons.
We try to be the gatekeepers of our
Yeah.
organization. We try to be great gatekeepers and avoid as many pitfalls as we possibly can.
Right. Oh, guys, can you stay another hour? Thank you all so much for coming, Mrs. Lurline, Jerry, and Chris Whitaker, right?
Thank you for having me. Yes, ma'am.
You're so welcome. Y'all have to come back and sip some more tea with us.
Oh, I've got some foster parents who'd love to come and talk to you.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we can get them on the show maybe next week.
That's a plan. That's a plan.
All right, guys, May is National Foster Care Month. If you know any foster care parents out there, just reach out and give them a hug because of the great thing that they're doing, taking in these kids and treating them like their own. So hats off to all the foster parents out there. We really, really appreciate you all. And once again, if you would like to become a foster parent, you can contact Chris, 1-800-882-5513, or go to the website SCYAP, that's YAP.com, and of course I have it at the bottom of the screen. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching Tangy Tea of Life, and make sure you go and like our page on Facebook. Also, don't forget to leave comments below, and if you would like to be a guest on Tangy Tea of Life, you can go to tangyteaoflife@gmail.com and leave all your information right there or inbox us on Facebook. All right, guys, until next time, talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.